Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to, I almost feel like a first episode of 2023. No, I had one. But welcome to Designer Head YouTube channel, and welcome to this video. Wow, it's been a while. Again, I keep saying that, of course. And I have a lot to say, I have a lot to share. A lot of things happened in the last, 4 or 5 months since I actually made a video. Again, you know, life takes its course. Sorry, not curse, but course. And, you know, it just makes it difficult sometimes to actually make these videos because my time is just so out of whack lately with a lot of shit going on. But there is something that I've been talking about for the last probably 3+ months, and I've been asked a bunch of questions about that, and so I decided to, what is a better way of getting back into those videos with this very specific subject that is literally on everyone's mind, and it's been a hot topic and conversation around the industry for the last, geez, I don't know, almost half a year. So yeah, without further ado, let's hit it. All right, so, well, I just checked, and the last video I made was in March, and we are in May. So, yeah, I've been a little busy, and not an excuse. I promise that I'll try videos, or as often videos as I can, and I keep failing at this promise. One of the things that I really hate doing is promising and not keeping that promise. However, there's a lot of things that are happening in my life. There's a lot of things that are happening with me professionally, and on my other fronts, as you know, the mentorships and philanthropic initiatives that I'm running. So a few things that I want you, all of my viewers here, to know is, one, I don't know if you know this, but I did switch to a new company around mid-ish last year, or mid-ish last year. And early this year, just became really, really crazy and with a lot of new things because I joined the company last year, which is part of the AI industry, and lo and behold, everything exploded, if you will, in January this year, and so everything just became super like on steroids, and we're just running like crazy. So that's one thing. Another thing is I've launched my philanthropic project, which is I called it Defied, which is a designer education fund for immigrant designers, where that's what I've been doing for many, many years, but other design leaders have joined me in this endeavor, and so we're sponsoring education to aspiring designers who happen to be immigrants that cannot afford an education otherwise, any kind of education, even the cheapest courses you can find for $50, $100 or whatever. And so that's kind of, I've been busy with this for a little bit. Other initiatives, some speaking engagements, and the list goes on of the things that I've been busy with. And of course, life happens, and so you get busy. So what I really want to talk to you today is something that it seems like a lot of people have been asking me a lot in the last probably 5-ish months. More so, I was invited to talk to a big design and product team at one of the biggest companies in retail. I can't mention the name, but the entire topic was really talk about the intersection between design and AI. And so AI has been a topic on everyone's mind for the last about 6 months, ever since early January, because one single company made it all incredibly public, which is OpenAI, and with their ChatGPT suddenly became a thing, even though generative AI has been around for the last at least couple of years in its different stages and forms. It was still learning, it was still developing and whatnot, and January they basically just flipped the switch and made it all public and became one of the most downloaded or used app in the history of apps, or in the first whatever months. Kudos to their success. Really happy for them. However, what they did is they basically created an arms race of generative AI across literally almost any industry you can think of right now. Everyone out there is talking about it. Every company out there is trying to implement some sort of generative AI into their product in whatever way they can possibly can, regardless if it's actually a good idea or a bad idea. But everyone is doing, I want to do it too. Let's hit it. Let's make that shit happen. So, on that topic, I was recently at a design meetup in New York City, and somebody presented a big slide of a bunch of different products or companies that offer different AI tools in different categories, such as writing, design, photo editing, marketing, and then the list goes on. And as the person presented that, said that, well, by the time I'm presenting this slide to you, which I made 3 or 4 days ago, there is more, a few hundred extra companies or extra new tools on the market today. So this slide, which is a few days old, is already outdated. And they were right. Every single day, there seems to be, or feels like, there is a new tool popping up, and they're growing like mushrooms after a rainfall. So it's probably going to be very confusing to all of you. It's probably even on some level paralyzing to some people of, there's so many things happening, there's so many tools, there's so many companies doing these things, and so many companies integrating with AI, that I won't be surprised if many people are just gonna sit back and say, I don't fucking want to touch this shit because I have no fucking idea where to start, what to do, and how to use it. And you're right, you'll be absolutely right to feel that way. The thing is, they're all the same, just so you understand the concept. Generative AI is what it is. It is a generative AI system, which is a large language model, which in the industry you'll see a lot called as being shortened to LLM. Now, what does it actually do? So generative AI is essentially what it sounds. It generates something from your request, meaning you as the user, quote unquote, controls the output or the result of the AI, whatever it spits out. So what it's really is prompt engineering or prompt design or prompt interaction, whatever you want to call it. You literally go somewhere, whatever that is, either it's visual, textual, or any other form, which I don't know if there are any other form. It's only textual or visual. Could be either images, videos, photos, and whatnot, or animations, or textual, which is text, right? And all you have to do really is, there typically is going to be a little line of where you can type things in, and you type whatever thing you want to type. I don't know, create blah 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 with blah 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 in a style of blah blah blah. Hit enter, give it a few seconds, and voila, it spits out some outcome, some result, and it's either amazing or it's a piece of shit. It looks like crap. Now, it's not because the AI that you've been using or the tool you've been using is actually crap, but you have to know that all of this is based on the quality of the input, and that's the output you're gonna receive. It's almost similar to the quality of your work that you're inputting into your work, or the quality of your time, or the code. Anyway, I'm getting lost on this. Too far, too deep. It's a very simple exchange. The better you put in, the better you're gonna get back out. Simple as that, really. So there's a lot of them, a lot. And so I think the best thing for you to do is to kind of sit down and figure out, and as usual, I'm being distracted by my watch, and figure out what exactly you might use the AI tools for. And now I want everyone to kind of really pay attention to the words that I'm using. I keep saying tools because, let me jump into a burning question on everyone's mind, is AI coming from my job? The short answer is no, but the actual answer is kind of. So when I say kind of, it's not because the AI is actually going to replace you, but what I'm trying to say is that AI is not necessarily coming for your job, but it's coming for some of your skill sets. A lot of the things that you can utilize AI for, you've been utilizing your skills for, such as writing a research plan or coming up with some preliminary basic question for user research or interviews, or ideating on some visual concept, or trying to get some competitive analysis or competitive market data to understand how is your competition doing, how are they doing, what are they doing, how their metrics, and so forth. This is something you can actually use AI for now. So instead of you spending a week or two researching into your competitors, you can actually go into a fairly valid or fairly accurate AI, and I'll touch on that subject in a little bit of accuracy, and literally just ask for something like how many companies there are in the sugar production industry, or what are the biggest companies in the sugar production industry, or what are the leading companies in the United States in the sugar production industry, or what are the leading companies in the sugar ecosystem industry in general, right? Or what is the entire supply chain of a sugar production, sugar delivery, and sales and whatnot? I'm throwing out sugar just because something that popped to my mind, because I'm having coffee and I use sugar for my coffee. So, long story short, really, you can utilize your skill sets in a very different way. So in a nutshell, AI does coming for your skill sets, right? AI is coming for your ability to write a report. AI is coming for your abilities to do a market research or competitive research, or creating a test plan or a research plan. It is coming for your skill sets as quickly visualizing something, or putting together some wireframe, or quickly building a very basic prototype. There's already tools out there that are aiming for that specific task, which is creating really quickly websites or mobile applications that are literally translated into a preliminary basic prototype that you can actually click through. So a lot of these things are, yes, gonna get replaced by probably AI. 95%, yes. Does it mean that you're no longer relevant as a designer? Absolutely fucking not. So, what does it really mean for you? Everything I just said. What it really means is that AI should be treated just what I just called it, a tool. It is the same kind of a hype in design industry right now as it used to be in the 90s with Photoshop, when Photoshop came out, and graphic designers who used to be doing things by hand kind of felt a little threatened. But no, you just adapt. You learn the new tool, you master it, and you move on, and you just keep using it, and you become really good at it. So, in a nutshell, once again, I'm trying to, I guess, educate and communicate to people that AI is not necessarily going to be replacing you or not coming for your job, but it's definitely going to make your job different. The requirements for your position is going to be different. I already see in some places where hiring companies are already adding things like experience with ChatGPT or Google Bard or Microsoft Copilot and whatnot. The list goes on of abilities to their companies are looking for, right? Because they realize utilizing this new technology can actually allow them to do things faster, better, more efficiently, and streamline some of the processes. Because at the end of the day, it's a tool. And if you know how to treat it and you bend it to your own wills, it will produce amazing results for you. It will make your job so much easier, so much faster, so much simpler, rather than creating these lengthy and complicated processes. So, my recommendation to whoever is watching this video is sit down and figure out your entire process. Like literally just map it out. I don't know if you ever tried to do that, but I did. One of the things that I do typically as a manager is sitting down every time I join a new company or we start a new project or whatnot. I would sit down and I'll map out kind of the entire process from the beginning of an idea or where does it start, and then what do we do along the way in order to get to a final result of launching a product or launching a new feature or redesigning a new feature, rebuilding a new feature, or completely scraping and redoing a full product from scratch, right? Every single one of these things have a process, and that process, there are steps that we take. It can be, I don't know, user research, persona building, user journey, whatever the part might be. You can sit down, map out the entire process or the entire flow, if you will, of you as a designer going through a project, whatever that project might be. And I promise you, you can find spots in that entire process where you can kind of allocate, okay, this can be taken over by an AI. Now let me figure out which tool should I be using for that specific part in my flow, right? As an example, let's say that your first step in your flow is doing some market analysis to understand what is happening in the specific industry that you're designing for or was just hired to work in. And that's where you say, okay, I need to understand the at least global view or kind of like top level view of what's going on in the industry, what is new, what is not, what is hot, what it's not, what other companies doing or whatnot. You can literally go to ChatGPT or alike and ask all these questions, right? Not necessarily Googling them, but asking these questions of what is the trending things in this industry? What is the trending in that industry? Now, I would highly recommend, and this is what I was talking about previously, about accuracy. Generative AI, as somebody that I recently got to know, likes to say, hallucinates a lot, which means is it sounds accurate because it sounds like a human. It sounds like a person that just said something to you. So it sounds a little bit true-ish, right? However, the problem is that because ChatGPT and large language models alike haven't been trained on absolutely every single information in the world, they still don't have all the information out there. And so oftentimes they can just kind of imagine shit and write it in such a way that it sounds accurate or true or real. But I would also, if you get things like data numbers, statistics and whatnot, I would actually fact check against other sources such as statistics websites or research that is public, or I would even Google certain things, right? Kind of fact check the tool itself because it can produce some inaccurate results. And trust me, you don't want to be basing your decisions based on some fictional results or fictional data that it imagined because it just didn't have the real one, so it kind of compensated with its own wild imagination. So I would try to do that, right? Then let's say in whatever process you also need to go out and interview either existing users or new users, whatever that might be. These are still user interviews. So instead of you sitting down and kind of thinking through and breaking your head for a couple of days, figuring out what could be good questions to ask, you can literally go to, again, tools like ChatGPT or alike and ask them to produce a preliminary basic questions for a user interview for specific industry type, right? And it will produce a kind of a list of questions. They're not going to be exactly what you will use. They're not going to be the ones that you should be relying on, but it's a honestly amazing start for you to kind of tinker through and see, okay, these questions are good, so I can just adjust them a little bit. More so, you can, whatever ChatGPT, let's say, produces, and it's pretty big text for each question, you can grab that question and go to another AI tool called, for instance, WordTune, where you can just drop it in and ask it to shrink the entire sentence, and it will try and figure out a way of how to ask the same question but in a much shorter time and make it shorter, right? Or you can even ask ChatGPT itself to rewrite the same questions but in a much more friendlier way, or casual, or formal, or quirky, or sarcastic. Like, there's a lot of ways where you can tinker a little bit, kind of adjusting, if you will, the settings or the levels of your specific text or question that can bring down to the point of these questions are actually pretty good that you can utilize in user interviews. Now, that will save you days. You can literally do all of that in probably a span of a couple of hours. So my recommendation and my advice to all the designers out there that is worried about, being taken over by AI, don't be. At least in another 5, 7, 10 years, I don't see it completely taking over any kind of jobs, if you will, because for several reasons. AI still cannot think critically. It still cannot be incredibly creative. It can only base its decisions and creation on the things that already exist out there in the world. So it cannot necessarily create something out of nothing, just like the human brain can. Another thing is, in order for an employer to train AI to be as good as an employee, it's going to be at least 10 to 15 times more expensive to do than hire a few people instead of training AI. So it's a lot more complex. It's not as simple. It's a lot more expensive, still not as affordable. So we're all still okay. Obviously, AI will take over some mundane jobs or tasks and whatnot that people may have been performing for years, but that's okay. That's just the evolution of our species. That's the evolution of the industry. People who used to, ride carriages, I don't know the job positions of people who used to, whip the horses with the carriages, were suddenly out of a job when automotive industry came to be. Then trains quickly went down in being in popularity when airplanes were invented, right? So in our industry, there's always a fluctuation of we get to the peak of our knowledge and abilities, and then we invent something, and so we go higher, and some industries kind of tank, but then they retrain themselves, learn, and they keep going, right? And so it's a never-ending process of evolution and progress. You just can't avoid that. But the one thing you can do as a designer, as a creative in a digital and tech world, is adjust, is adapt, is to see the tools and new technology that is emerging not as a threat, but as another tool or an addition to your skill sets and abilities to perform and do your job better, more interestingly, more effectively, right? So once again, I'll try and kind of wrap it up because we've been talking about it for a while now, and I don't want to do this video for it to be 1 hour. Just look at AI as an opportunity rather than an obstacle. More so, I have made a prediction. I think it was a few months back on LinkedIn, kind of casually dropping in there. I'll do it here again, is the fact that I think that the next design title, as we see in one of my articles that I wrote on Medium, I kind of talked about different titles in the design industry, how they kind of peaked and then went down and disappeared, was replaced by another title, peaked and then disappeared and whatnot. Again, it's a normal evolution. It's a normal process. As new technologies emerge, we constantly kind of adapt and change these titles, right? Like UX designer didn't exist 10 years ago. Product designers were, if you say I'm a product designer to somebody 10 years ago, it implies that you're actually working on physical products, that you actually design physical products. So don't think about it that way, right? The titles will change and shift and adjust and whatnot. They're a little bit more fluid these days. But I do see an emergence of a new title in the next probably, I don't know, year or less, which is probably going to be AI prompt designer. That little thing where you go and you type things, that's called a prompt, which means you're prompting the AI to produce a result, right? The better it is, the better the result is. All these visuals that you probably can see plastered all over the internet right now, these incredibly dreamy, amazing visuals that look like something out of somebody's wacky dream, but yet it looks photographically sharp and beautiful and captivating and so forth, that up until now, people who are 3D artists used to spend months, sometimes even years, producing these dreamy visuals. Right now you can go into Midjourney or alike and literally produce that specific or that kind of level of art or digital art with just text. You're just typing it in. So the better your text is, the better your prompt is, the better the outcome is going to be. Hence, I am pretty certain that there is going to be a new title in our industry which is called AI prompt designer. Somebody who specializes in such an accurate descriptions with so many incredibly juicy and tiny details in those descriptions that will yield amazing results, both textual but mostly visual. So I almost see like a transition of copywriters or UX writers and a I guess combination of visual arts or visual design into this kind of one streamlined profession that will be called AI prompt designers, which is again a mixture of a writer and a visual designer or a visual artist, right? And that's what we're gonna see. So again, all of these things right now are kind of forming. Right now we are at this moment in time where new technology just emerged. Everyone is still figuring out how to properly use it, what could be the potential of it, the future of it, and so forth. And so we are right now living in a great time to really jump on board and try and figure out how can we utilize that specific tool or that technology for our advantage. And I just gave you those answers, or at least some of them. I can't cover all of them in this video, but at least some of them, of how to make this thing work for you and help you progress and grow in your own profession, in your own industry, in your own field, and keep on going. Now, I want to answer another kind of a controversial question that a lot of people have been asking me, and that is, anything produced by AI on the visual side, can it be considered art? And so my answer is, as an artist, as a photographer, as a designer, as a design leader, manager, and so forth, yes, it is art. The thing is, what a lot of people, I think, don't really get or don't really think about is every single piece of art, literally every single piece of art, photography, painting, murals, graphic design, illustrations, anything starts with what? It starts with our thought. It starts with us as human beings creating something in our head. And we're creating something in our head, we are communicating with ourselves internally. Well, we go back and forth about colors, positions, layouts, how things will interact with each other, shapes, forms, again, textures, and so forth. All of this is slowly formulating in our brain until we actually sit down at a computer or in front of a canvas or behind a camera and execute on it. Now, the execution itself, that's a process of creation. So this is where we are trying to translate our idea into something quote unquote tangible, something we can almost, well, not touch necessarily oftentimes, but see, So something out of our head that no one can see, suddenly we can create and everyone can see. We're still using words for that. We just don't speak them out. We just don't write them down. Or in some cases we do. We write down our ideas of how we want things to be, and then we sit down and actually try to create it. I personally don't see a difference. I really don't see that difference between sitting down in front of a canvas or in front of a computer and creating something from the idea that I wrote down or the idea that I formed in words in my head. It's just the medium of creation is very different. Instead of me spending 2 weeks or a week or 2 days or a few nights creating that thing either on canvas or somewhere else, I'm using a different tool for that. I'm just asking this tool to create that for me based on all the words that I have collected in my head to describe my idea. Now, it doesn't mean that suddenly it's going to replace, as I see a lot of these clickbaits on the internet of photography is dead, graphic design is dead, illustration is dead, fine arts is dead, and this dead, and that. Like, fuck this. Like, what the hell is wrong with people? Nothing is dead. If anything, then actual art, well, sorry, not actual art, but art produced by human beings, not machines, will actually go higher in value, because now the things that people produce by hand, by themselves, will be more valued. Like, that's what I'm trying to communicate. If you look at the evolution of the digital art, when digital art became a thing, and suddenly everyone could be quote unquote an artist and then design shit or create shit or illustrate shit in software such as Photoshop, Illustrator, CorelDRAW, 3ds Max, and whatnot. At the same time, if you look at the history of explosion of artists that are still alive, that their art actually being evaluated, valued, and sold at auctions, went up in the last few decades. A lot more than it used to be before all the digitization. Before, there are very minor amount of people, like a minority of people, that will break into the, famous or recognized art industry or field. Today, it's a lot more. If you're looking at photography, for instance, I'm also a photographer, and digital cameras. When digital cameras came to be, a lot of the photographers of the day thought that that's it. Who needs us anymore? Who needs an actual professional photographer who knows how ISO works and f-stops and exposures and color balances and white balances and proper compositions and whatnot? Who needs all of that anymore? When you have a camera that you can just switch on automatic, snap a picture, and does amazing work. But it didn't. If anything, photographers actually are more in demand today than they ever been in the entire photographic history. And film photography is a lot more expensive and valued a lot more than digital photography. If you're gonna hire a photographer that is specializing in medium format film photography, it's gonna cost you an arm and a leg versus hiring somebody who does the same work on the digital. So it's, instead of being afraid of the new things coming into our life and our industries, we need to understand, okay, what is the value and how this can actually help and progress the industry and make it better. So that's what I would like to leave you with, is the positive thinking on that side, not the negative one. I understand it's scary. Trust me, on some level it scares me too. We all watched a bunch of sci-fi videos and movies such as Terminator and I don't know, geez, I'm blanking out right now. The Star Wars, like, yes, there is obviously a potential for it to be utilized in an evil way. Like any other thing, anything can be weaponized. Like, I have a book on my shelf that is called Branding Terror. It's literally a book. It's a collection of logotypes or branding of a bunch of terrorist organizations across the entire world. Why do I have this book? Because I'm a curious individual and I'm really fascinated to learn why certain colors are being used. Are the terrorist organizations utilizing the design side of it as equally as other companies, corporations, nonprofit organizations, governments, and so forth? And they do. Like, design is being used to brand terrorists and terror organizations and other evil things. So AI or no AI, new technology or not new technology, or old technology, our skill sets as creatives can always be utilized for both good and bad. It's only a matter of us making that decision and making that choice. Are we want to be selling or providing our skill sets, abilities, knowledge, know-how, and expertise for the good or for the bad? It's only up to you, no one else. On that note, I want to leave you with that, and I hope that this video was helpful and educational in some shape, way, or form. My innate desire is to spread my opinions, share my opinions, spread my knowledge and expertise, and all I can do is just say what I have to say, and it's up to you, my viewers, to decide how you want to use it, accept it or not. So I think there is an exciting future ahead of us, but it's up to you to make a decision. How do you want to approach this? Again, please leave me feedback, reviews, like, share, subscribe, and any feedback, any comment below the video. Please, I beg you, I want a dialogue. I want people to ask questions. I want people to even say, hey, you're fucking wrong, and let's have a dialogue. Let's have a conversation around it. I'm always open to that. I answer every single person that asks me a question. Either it's here or LinkedIn or any other social media that I'm on. Not always the same immediately, but I always answer and always respond. So I hope all of you have an amazing week, an amazing weekend whenever you're watching this video. Morning, day, afternoon. And once again, never stop learning.